Welcome to Oxford News This Week. I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Pauline Bennett. In this week's news, Village Manager's first budget draws rave reviews. Young Archer receives video message from Ted Nugent, and Village hunting for a full-time clerk treasurer.
Stay tuned, learn more about these stories and others. The Oxford News begins right now. Oxford Township may get more funding to improve M24 for pedestrians and bicyclists thanks to the Oxford Village Council. Last week, the council voted 5-0 to approve, at no additional cost to the village, the township's application for a grant of up to $50,000. The grant is from Traffic Safety Plan Implementation Assistance Program through Southeast Michigan's Council of Governments.
Village Manager Joe Medor presented his first budget since taking over as Oxford Village Manager in December. Medor's proposed budget for the 2018-2019 fiscal year begins on July 1st. It contains a general fund with revenues and expenditures balancing at $1.9 million. The largest portion of the proposed general fund is about $727,000 for the police department. Medor's proposed budget is supported by the current property tax rate of 10.62 mils. That has been the village rate since 2010. 1 mil is equal to $1 for every $1,000 of taxable value.
Oxford Village is again looking to hire for the clerk treasurer position, vacant since last June. In the meantime, council will continue using the services of Lori Fisher. Fisher has had the $43 per hour position since August 28th, contracted for up to 20 hours per week. The future of the full-time clerk treasurer position was a topic of discussion at both the April 23rd workshop meeting and April 24th regular council meeting.
2 Oxford High School students were suspended and could potentially face criminal charges. The students allegedly sent the threatening snapshot message to classmates. Oakland County Sheriffs investigated and determined that neither student was in possession of any weapons or had any access to them. On Friday morning at approximately 7:28 a.m., an anonymous email was sent to Oxford High School Assistant Principal Kurt Noose regarding an alleged threat that had been made via social media the previous night. On Snapchat, the 2 suspects were reported to have exchanged messages referencing the 1999 Columbine High School massacre in Colorado and implying that there would be a shooting at Oxford High School, according to the Sheriff's Office.
Oxford High School's first robotics competition, Team 2137, or also known as Oxford RoboCats, competed at the first World Championship in Detroit. At the event, held in Gobo Hall, Torque was one of 3 teams to win the Engineering Inspiration Award. The team placed 24th out of 68 teams in their field. The Engineering Inspiration Award celebrates a team for their success in promoting STEM careers within their community.
Approximately 600 volunteers spent Saturday and Sunday doing free yard work and other chores. 70 homes in Oxford, Addison, Orion, and Brandon Townships saw volunteers help with spring cleaning. This is part of the 3rd annual Oxford Gives Back Work Weekend.
You know, not too many people can say a rock music legend sent them a personal message, but Carter Curtis can. A 5-year-old Oxford Township resident recently received a 20-second video message from Ted Nugent. In the video, Nugent quoted, "Hey Carter, happy springtime in the wilds of the winter water wonderland of Michigan." He went on to say, "This is your Uncle Ted saying, aim small, miss small, and be the mystical flight of the arrow." So, your dad made you a handmade longbow, huh? You are the luckiest kid in America, except for me. Live it up.
Thanks to some generous local residents and a compassionate healthcare professional, an Oxford Village man got the new hearing aids he needed. He received approximately $3,500 in local donations, including a $2,000 contribution from an anonymous donor. The big discount was provided to him by Audiology and Hearing Aid Center in Oakland Township. And that's the Oxford News for this week. If you would like to learn more about these stories and other, pick up a copy of the Oxford Leader newspaper, or better yet, catch us on our website, OCCTV.org, and that's how Bill and Kathy from Grant Township watch it, and on YouTube, and of course your regular E-channels, Charter Channel 191 or AT&T Channel 99.
And coming up soon, John Ochins with the school news, OCTV's very own Cody Wright with the sports report. And you won't want to miss Science in the News with Dave Kenny.
I'm Pauline Bennett. Thanks for watching Oxford News this week, where we bring your news closer to home.
And I'm Elgin Nichols. Remember, always be kind to your friends and neighbors, and thanks for watching.
Welcome to Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication New Scientist. In our first story, why the long face? Horses can remember the facial expressions they see on human faces and respond differently if you smiled or frowned when they last saw you. Leanne Proops of the University of Portsmouth in the UK and her colleagues showed that in 2016 that horses respond differently to photographs of happy or angry human faces. Now they have studied whether horses can form lasting memories of people that depend on their facial expressions. First, they showed horses a photo of one or two human models displaying either a happy or an angry face. Several hours later, the model visited the horse in person, this time with a neutral expression. As a control, some horses saw a different model in the second part to the one they saw in the photograph. Crucially, the models didn't know which photograph the horse had seen earlier. In the early 20th century, a horse called Clever Hans amazed audiences by appearing to answer simple mathematical problems by tapping his hoof. It turned out he was responding to involuntary cues from his trainer. Proop's study aimed to eliminate such cues. The team found that the horses remembered the model's previous facial expressions. Horses prefer to look at negative and threatening sights with their left eye and positive social stimuli with their right eye. In the study, when they saw a model they had been seen frowning earlier, they spent more time looking with their left eye. They also exhibited more stress-related behaviors like scratching and floor sniffing. In contrast, when they saw a model they had seen smiling earlier, they spent more time looking with their right eye. Many other animals have shown an ability to remember human faces, including sheep and fish. Wild crows will hold a grudge for years against people that have treated them badly and even teach other crows to mob their enemies. However, the horses seem to form an opinion about people based only on their expression in a photograph. That's something we really haven't seen in animals before, says Proops. The horse family has the most expressive faces after the primates, so logically they pay attention to faces and expressions, says Frans de Waal at Emory University in Atlanta. Horses, surrounded by people, have ample opportunity to learn what our expressions mean. In our next story, your pooch is a possible source of urinary tract infections. UTIs occur when bacteria infect the bladder, urethra, and kidneys. Most of the time, they are caused by bacteria from a person's own feces, usually E. coli. Peter Damberg and colleagues at the University of Copenhagen in Denmark investigated whether pets could also be a source of UTIs. They screened 119 people who were treated for UTIs at Hvidovre University Hospital in Copenhagen. Of those patients, 19 lived with pets. The team asked the pet owners to sample their pet's feces with a cotton swab. Genetic analysis of those revealed that 2 dogs had E. coli bacteria that matched those that caused their owner's infection. To find out if the owners had caught the bacteria from their dogs or if the dogs might have caught them from their humans, the team asked the owners to send human and dog fecal samples 10 months later. One person didn't have any sign of their UTI-causing strain, but their dog did. This suggests their dog persistently carries the strain and was probably the source of its owner's infection. It's not clear yet how bacteria from dogs may cause UTIs, says Damberg. However, He suggests people should avoid being licked. In our last story, an indigenous Amazon tribe swaps messages over 20 kilometers simply by beating out rhythms on drums. The drumming mimics the entirety of their spoken language. The Bora people live in Peru and Colombia. They use pairs of drums called manguare, each of which can make 2 notes, given 4 in total. Julian Mayer at the University of Grenoble Alpes in France and his colleagues studied 169 messages by 5 expert drummers. They found that different pitches only play a minor role in translating Bora language into drum. Instead, the key element is the rhythm of the drumming, which closely matches that of spoken Bora language. In Manguare messages, the number of beats equals the number of syllables, says Myers. The lengths of the pauses between beats were related to the spaces of spoken words. Most messages are split into 4: an introduction, the sender's ID, the main message, and a sign-off. Set pieces can also be used to announce events like, well, drinking contests. And playing both drums together acts as a ringtone to precede a message, and we thought our email was good. Well, that's it for this edition of Science in the News. I'm Dave Kenny. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television.
I'm John Ochins, and welcome to the Oxford Wildcat School Update. Special congratulations are in order for OMS student Carly Rodriguez this week. She placed 3rd in over 6,000 participants in the Michigan Farm Bureau Insurance America and Me essay contest. Carly's topic was My Personal Michigan Hero. Being a cancer survivor, Carly thought of Maggie Varney of Wigs for Kids of Michigan. Maggie provided Carly with a free wig when she was being treated for cancer a few years ago. Carly won $1,000 and will be honored in Lansing on May 15th. Way to go, Carly. There's a new diploma option available to our high school graduates. It's called the Seal of Biliteracy. Our Assistant Superintendent of Instruction, Ken Weaver, fills us in.
Recently, the MDE put forth a program titled the Seal of Biliteracy. It's found across the nation. I think about 30 states do it currently. Michigan came on board and it had a state level committee that designed criteria and a basic outline of a process to award the Seal of Biliteracy. The Seal of Biliteracy, what it recognizes, and it goes on a student's diploma. They can't get it until they're a senior and they graduate. But it recognizes those students who speak more than one language. And English is one of them, but the second language or third language possibly is a different language as well, and that they meet a certain proficiency level. So in order to qualify, a student must meet the requirements for graduation, which includes the English graduation requirements of 4 years, and also then reach a certain proficiency level on a language other than English.
Students must pass tests to qualify. American Sign Language is on the list of languages. I asked Ken if this would help a student get into college.
It could possibly. I mean, many colleges look at many different things. Entrance into a college is not a perfect science. One of the first measures is either a really good ACT or SAT. That always helps tremendously. The colleges also look at GPAs, they look at awards, they look at recognitions that they receive, clubs, leadership opportunities, diversity of the student body, you name it. There's a lot of things, and each college has a different approach or different philosophy that they use to decide whether or not a student is going to be able to join that college's student body. So this would be a recognition that would also go on the diploma, an actual seal affixed to it, as well as would be stated on a transcript that the college would be receiving that would note that the student received the Seal of Biliteracy, which that basically validates that this student is fluent in 2 languages.
I'm sure future employers would take note. If you're a parent of one of our students, the mood of the day probably tells you it's testing time again.
We're in the middle of M-STEP testing. That's always a trying time. It interrupts learning somewhat, but we're hanging in there. The third grade reading bill is still hanging out there. They still have some parameters in which to finish up. It seems to have gone pretty well. I know just this morning I had a meeting with the elementary principals, and they seemed pretty happy with some of the changes that were required in the law to how we approached reading and so forth. And in implementing them, they've been very happy with some of the practices and some of the improvements that have been made. So they're really happy. They took a situation that could be viewed negatively, and they really turned it and made it work for them in their schools, and trying to help all kids make sure they're proficient in reading.
If you happen to be around the Performing Arts Center on April 19th, you noticed we had an art exhibit going on. Over 30 students of Rebecca Zamansky's high school art classes displayed their work for all to see. One of them was Raquel Escamilla.
Are these creations of yours things that you've done during this school year?
No. A lot of these have been in high school. Actually, I think, all these have been in high school. Some of them are from freshman year, some of them from last year, and some of them are for this year.
And you are a junior this year?
I am a senior.
You're a senior this year. Okay, very good. Is there any particular theme that you like to stick to with your drawings? I see an animal, I see a turtle, I see a butterfly.
I like to stay with the nature.
Nature?
And the naturals. And the wildlife, yes.
And I see good-looking cupcakes there.
More on schooling around. That's the Oxford School Update for this week. This is Oxford Community Television, keeping it local.
Hi, I'm Elgin Nichols.
And I'm Dave Kenny.
Together, David and I host OCTV's weekly show, Minutes by Minutes.
The show presents our sometimes humorous interpretation of what your elected politicians are doing to enact regulations and ordinances that ultimately affect us all, keeping your news closer to home and reporting political shenanigans from Oxford and Addison Township, including the villages of Leonard and Oxford.
Catch Minutes by Minutes on Charter Channel 191 or AT&T Channel 99. Tune in Monday through Friday, 11:30 a.m. and 11:30 p.m. and Saturday, 11:30 a.m.
If you don't have Charter or AT&T, you can watch us on our local website, OCCTV.org, or OCTV Oxford, Michigan on YouTube. See you there.
What's going on, Wildcat fans? Cody Wright here once again with the Sports Report. This last week has been great for spring sports, although we did have a few cancellations because of rain. It certainly has really started to feel like spring sports. Anyways, let's dive in and see how this last week went. Not a ton to report on, but the majority of it is good. First off, boys baseball took on Stony Creek on the 2nd here at home. Both the JV and varsity played, however, the freshman club did not. The varsity game was very high scoring, but we did not come out on top at the end of 7. The final score was close, 9-7. The JV club, however, did play very, very well, and we crushed Stony Creek to a final of 10-2. We got the runs going, and our fielding was strong, as the score reflects. On the flip side, the girls softball team took on Richmond here at home on the 28th. Like the boys and girls JV and varsity teams both played, while the freshman club did not. The girls were very successful, however, all around, varsity winning 4-1 and JV winning 6-5. Baseball and softball are both very technical sports, and it can be looked at from various different perspectives. I think both boys and girls are playing well on both sides. On the flip side, though, boys and girls lacrosse teams both played as well. The boys on the first took on Rochester on the road. Varsity took the win 14-5, and JV took the loss 4-3. The girls club took on Harrison the next day at OES, and both teams were successful. Varsity taking the win 16-6, and JV taking the win 12-3. Both games ending in wins that were far from being close, that's for sure. And last but not least, the girls soccer team took on Lapeer here at home on the 1st as well. Varsity was successful with the win 4-1. However, JV fell to a final score of 1-0. Very, very close. So anyway, that's going to do it for this week's report. For more info on these events and more, go to oxfordathletics.org. Plenty of game breakdowns and statistics all right there for you at oxfordathletics.org. While you're at it, might as well check us out at OCCTV.org. All of our coverage of these events and more can be found on our YouTube page, which you can access through the website. Once again, that is OCCTV.org. Well, that's all for me this week, folks. I want to thank you all for watching and remind you to tune in next time. But until then, I'm Cody Wright, and go Wildcats.
On Schooling Around, we don't just school around. We get with everyone from the superintendent to the kids to find out what's new in Oxford schools. Schooling Around, only on OCTV.
Welcome to this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and these stories are taken from the publication Automotive News. In our first story, General Motors is asking owners of 2017 Chevrolet Bolt EVs to take the vehicles to dealerships for a software update that will sooner detect a potential battery issue that could lead to a reduction or loss of acceleration. The customer satisfaction campaign stems from a calibration that fails to detect the difference in the state of charge among the cell groups in the battery. Because of the problem, according to a notice to customers obtained by Automotive News, the vehicle may not receive sufficient warning prior to a battery cell low voltage condition, which may result in a loss of propulsion. A GM spokeswoman said a small percentage of vehicles may experience the loss of power, but the company is issuing the advisory to all 2017 Bolt owners globally, including 23,297 cars in the U.S., to get the software update installed. The software update does not resolve the underlying battery defect. However, it does provide owners with an early warning that they may experience a reduction or loss of propulsion and take the vehicle in for service, which could take a few hours. For OnStar customers, GM is monitoring their vehicles, and if the battery shows signs of the problem, the company is contacting the owners to arrange for service and replace their battery pack for free. Installation of the new calibration software is expected to take less than an hour, and it will give customers more time to safely pull over. The repair will be done free until April 30th of 2020. After that, any applicable warranty will apply. GM became aware of the problem through OnStar's monitoring of early production vehicles. Some anomalies, according to GM, led the company to bring those vehicles in for diagnostics and then identify the need for a customer satisfaction campaign. GM recommends that customers take their vehicles in for service as soon as possible. And in our next story, a group of auto and tech companies have formed a consortium to develop automotive uses for blockchain, the database technology known for its use in cryptocurrency. MOBI, the Mobility Open Blockchain Initiative, said May 2nd at a conference in Dubai that General Motors, BMW, Renault, Bosch, ZF, Friedrichshafen, and IBM would be among its initial members. The group is helmed by industry veteran Chris Ballinger, who last month left his role as CFO and head of mobility services at Toyota Research Institute. Blockchain is a technology where the network effects will be very strong, Ballinger said. If you're not in at the very start, it may be too late. The consortium will work to ensure blockchain-based services can play nice with vehicles from multiple brands to avoid an annoying scenario in which a car can't transact with a system it's not compatible with. It also will host educational seminars for members. Blockchain technology is considered to be an unhackable financial transaction system because it uses a decentralized network. Proponents argue that the lack of a central management authority ensures that the data is virtually tamper-proof, as nefarious actors would need to hack multiple data storage locations to alter information. There could be many practical uses for the blockchain in automotive industry, such as allowing consumers to pay for tolls and electric vehicle charging stations, as well as creating public records that track vehicles and parts in the supply chain. The technology's rise, however, in the shadowy world of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin has left some companies hesitant to embrace it. It's a big buzzword, but very few people understand it, said Sachin Lula, IBM's automotive lead, which is why these consortiums play a big role. They bring the technology to life. ZF and IBM are collaborating with financial services firm UBS on the supplier's car e-wallet product showcased at this year's CES Tech Trade Show in Las Vegas. And EY, the consulting firm, has also a blockchain-based platform for automotive. But without widespread adoption, blockchain may be dead on arrival. If only one player pushes, it will be extremely hard to make it happen for the industry, says Teodoro Leo, automotive and industrial lead at Accenture, a consulting firm that is part of the consortium. It's not only going to be 2 car makers to make it happen. The consortium's initial goal will be to get car makers to assign digital identities to vehicles coming off the line, which will allow them to access blockchain platforms that run mobility services. This could unlock new revenue streams for car makers eager to monetize vehicle location and consumer data. We've made a big bet on the enterprise, said IBM's Lula. Now it's about bringing in an ecosystem of partners very, very quickly. Well, that's all for this edition of Auto Talk. I'm Dave Kenny, and as always, may the wind be at your back as you cruise down life's highways. Stay tuned to Oxford Community Television.